welcome to Gallifrey Live.
I love it. We are back. We are beginning the year, and you may notice there's a little something that's slightly different. It happens to be our glasses, definitely, right?
Did you guys notice? We are wearing
so.
2019 glasses.
Yes, happy 2019. And you know what I realized? I wanted to do something very special for this episode. Because it was the beginning of a new year, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And do you mind if I step away to do that, something a little bit different?
I don't mind at all.
I'll be right
Please
back.
Go ahead.
Fill in for me.
All right.
I'll be back.
So, for those of you guys in the chat, what's up? Happy New Year. How's it going? Do you have new resolutions? Because that is the title of today's episode. Resolutions. And I don't know. I guess my resolution is to fill the void while Doctor Who isn't coming back until 2020. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to stall while Daniel's like doing something magical. I hope it's gonna be super great. Hello in the chat. Well, okay. And then last week, I remember we have. Oh wait.
Okay. I couldn't find.
Oh my God, Brian's here,
I couldn't
guys.
find my grand, so it's okay. We're just gonna be here, and we're gonna talk about the episode today. Okay.
That does
so
look like. That,
what are we
that
talking
really
about?
does look like Brian.
What are we talking? Yeah, I happen to notice.
We're talking about your
you know,
coordination issue and how it doesn't relate to anything
how
in
it's
any
not
episode.
even related to
No.
the show. Like
No.
honestly, no matter what happens, you won't see a problem that's going
But
to
it'll
stem from
keep
it.
coming up, especially at the end of this one. And I
had
am
11
tired. I am tired of your non-existent coordination problem, Ryan. Gosh darn it.
We had 11 episodes, and through all 11, not one did we see it actually happen as an issue, except for the first one.
Yes.
Just because it happened to be the first one. That was it. Sucked. Anyway, all right, I'm back. Had to channel him.
Yeah.
I think I did well.
I'm not good at stalling either. It was like at least like 20 seconds of a complete silence and me being like,
I was trying to be so fast about it. I was trying to be
dope.
so fast about it and just be able to change. And this is my homage to Ryan. It was like, congratulations. He's come full circle as a character. He's been able to realize he has someone that loves him as family. He realized and he was able to change his father's ideal of, you know, what's going on and blah, blah. It was interesting.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, you know, just let him know I'm here for you and I love you, man. That was all.
Oh, okay.
That was all.
So, kind of going into our episode this week, I guess, you know, it starts out and it's this weird kind of fantasy opening that I felt, and I thought it was really great. And
It was great.
I still kind of have a question, and I'm not 100% sure what the answer is. Who is narrating?
Oh, at that time it was Ryan's dad.
And at the end, too, it's
Yep.
Ryan's dad?
Mhm.
So does that mean that he...
Nah, they just used him because it was like his voice and the way it is and blah, blah. It was perfect for narration. I started to read it and I was going through it like, wait a minute. So what's going on here? Is that Ryan's dad? Is that this? Is that I was
But
looking
it's
at
also
like
really
crazy.
weird to me because it made me think that he would have been in the past somehow and had something. Like, I thought it was setting up something bigger for him than it was. And I hate... like over narrating things. It's like, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it added to any of this kind of story, really. I feel like there's a different way they could have done it. Hey, Edward Sanchez, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Honestly, in my opinion, I felt that what was happening was, hey, somebody happened to watch Justice League, and we're just going to do the same thing. 'Cause that's
All
exactly
right.
what it was.
Okay.
That's exactly what it was. Here goes the problem. Here goes the villain. We chop them up. We put them in different locations, and boom, boom. But thank God it was the Dalek that came back.
It was. Out of all the monsters to come back, and we had talked about this earlier in the year when we were going through other episodes of which monster would you want to see come back. And of course, we were like, the Daleks have to come back. They are
my
quintessential
God.
to Doctor Who. We need to see them. And this is a great episode considering like Chibnall was like, we are not bringing any old monsters for
Yes.
at least the first 10 episodes. We knew they would have to bring someone back eventually.
Exactly.
And why not the Daleks? This was an amazing surprise.
It was
and
so
I
good.
absolutely loved it.
Okay, now I love the slight redesign of them
Because
and
it's they're using other parts from
yes,
you know
yes.
the
From
warehouse
what it can
and,
find
yeah.
and everything like that. But also I read something that happened to be due to some people were speculating it was licensing, but that's not really confirmed.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people were like, oh, well, they also had to do it due to licensing and blah, blah. I don't care if it was licensing or if it wasn't. I liked the fact that we went for something just looked a little different, but still it rang true.
It
as
does,
far as-
and it looks good. And I like that they used just not the plungy part, but the other part, the whisk part as
Oh,
a weapon.
yes!
And it did make it more intimidating. So for new viewers who have no association with the Dalek, it did make it more intimidating than what we have seen in the past.
Oh,
which I
man,
love.
it was so good. And I love how essentially it created like a time shift to reassemble itself,
Yes.
The Dalek itself, and then did all of this. And it's all because, well, the recon Daleks are far more advanced than the other Daleks.
And they do explain it, and it makes sense in the context of everything.
Yes, it just makes so much sense. And I loved it. Did you like the new look of just the literal, not even the Dalek outside the shell, the Dalek
tentacle?
itself? Yes.
The tentacle monster?
It's scarier. It's creepier.
It is scary, but it did remind me a little bit of some like Japanese anime, and I was really concerned about the characters that it was like overtaking, especially Lynn. I was like, Lynn, baby, I've seen a lot of these, and the tentacle always wins.
P.S. Lynn, it never works out when there's a tentacle involved.
But we are not discussing any more into that. But it did give me a lot of uneasy feelings, and I think it added to the ferocity of the Dalek that it can take over someone and kind of just penetrate their body in other ways. And
that
I was like,
so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I did not know that. And it was like, okay, and once again, because it's a recon Dalek, it has that ability to do so.
Yes.
That is dangerous because if you think about it, if they literally just wanted to, we'll just send a bunch of those out, and that could be it.
Yeah.
They can really just snuff out a whole society.
I do have one kind of lingering question since we're just kind of talking about Daleks right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular Dalek, recon Dalek, takes over Lynn, and it could have killed her if it wanted to. Why didn't it?
My thing, same
Why
thing.
would it leave her
I
alive?
was thinking that, why did it leave her to go ahead and get something? Why didn't it say, okay, I'm leaving.
You're
You're
useless
dead.
now.
Yeah, you're dead, and now let me move on.
Yeah.
But it was slightly in a rush. It was running from the doctor at that time, too. Once it got in there, it took about roughly how long for the doctor to show up?
And not even that. I guess that's true.
But it was a long time. You're right. It was a long time between. Even if it was 5, 10, or even 20 minutes. I don't know how long it was. But the doctor shows up.
And the whole Dalek thing is to exterminate. So the fact that it would leave a human alive makes me think, what?
It was kind of weird, but the thing is, it's here for reconnaissance.
Yeah.
So I guess that was the whole thing. It was like, you're not really a factor. Willie, what are you going to do anyway? You're just a human.
That
true. That could be the case.
That's true. And the other thing that kind of I didn't necessarily get, so this Dalek armor, the tank that it made, is made not only from parts of its original shell, but is also made from parts found in the warehouse. So when the military comes and shoots it up, it should have some holes in it, right?
I would think so, but the thing is, I don't know.
All right. I mean, these are small things. I'm very nitpicky, but like, it does create kind of like a weird, like, wait, what? It takes me out of the story for a second when I have to question basic things.
I feel we're here to discuss Doctor Who, and it's fine to be nitpicky. Just because you're nitpicky doesn't mean you hate a show.
And we have producer Nagami that's going to chime in really quick and tell us what's right.
Nagami!
Modern military rounds are meant to kill by hydrostatic shock and not armor-piercingness.
Oh, so then if it hits an actual human being, boom, okay, you'll die. But versus hitting metal, it's not armor piercing.
Interesting.
So, okay, I get it. They're not armor piercing rounds.
You know,
but
I like
what
that.
was the metal? But how thick and strong was the metal, though? Still, because a regular bullet can still hit and go through a car, right? But then the car metal is like this.
I'm pretty sure
fiberglass thin.
I'm pretty sure
metal.
the Dalek knew to like go to a certain place of like, this is what I want my armor made out of. Like he already knew, you know, because he downloaded all of the data from the internet, so he would have known where to go to get a very specific type of metal that would have been armor. Like not the piercing kind. So
it did mention was it the Black Archive?
I don't
or was
remember.
it the Black something? But I know how that was a thing mentioned way back before. So it was like, oh my god, that was cool. That was a cool drop. But when it did the whole download, in the Black Archive, there were supposed to be files concerning the Doctor, even still. Even though the Doctor wiped himself out, we're talking about Smith, wiped himself from existence, the Black Archive still had stuff. So why didn't it at least have that moment where it was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Oh, okay. I get it. Yeah, blah, blah. But it did essentially when she was like, oh, I'm the Doctor, look it up. And he was like, oh, you are the Doctor. You're
but I mean, that's the
enemy
thing, too, because I'm pretty sure the Daleks don't have this idea, like, they don't care about individuality. They just see him as, like, you're a person, it doesn't matter. But it's not until it's like, I am the Doctor, check me out.
Once I hear it.
And he's like, oh my goodness. you must have had another regeneration.
Exactly.
I must exterminate you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the database was in there, but couldn't put
it
that
wouldn't be
to that
updated. Yeah, it wouldn't have been
Jodie
updated
Whittaker's
for that.
face and, everything else.
Oh,
So.
that also wouldn't have been updated also because remember, funny enough, due to lack of funding from some clandestine government thing,
unit is
the Black Archive.
Yeah.
Once again, there goes plot hole. Unit defunded, but Black Archive still operating. That is true.
Good point,
that was
Jesse
something
Torres.
I was thinking because I was like, wait a minute, how did Unit lose it? But the thing is, Brexit, my friend. That's the answer.
Yeah.
I thought about it and I was looking at it and I was like,
they were being
how would they be?
tongue-in-cheek about
They
it.
were
Yeah,
because
so.
when she was, and I love it because what's her name? That person answered the phone. She's on Bandersnatch.
That's her.
She is
okay.
like, if you go through all the things
Yeah.
on Bandersnatch, she's the daughter of the guy, and later she ends up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my god, I recognize her immediately. I was like, no septum piercing, but I recognize her immediately.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting because I was like, all right, Unit is gone more due to Brexit than anything else.
Yes.
And that was great because hence it lost its funding for its clandestine, covert benefactors.
Yeah.
That was it. So
And that does make
that's
sense.
exactly what
And
happened.
that's why I was like, okay, Unit is defunct. Got it. I mean...
It was smart. It was funny. It was cool.
And it
I
brings
love
in
that part.
something old for, like...
Something
I love
old
how,
with something new.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always something blue because it's the TARDIS. So it's great.
I like that. No weddings yet.
Yeah,
so
boom.
far in the series.
Not
But yeah,
yet.
okay, so far a lot of the plot holes that we were talking about actually have reasons, which I kind of like. That
I am
is a very
digging it.
impressive writing.
I am digging it, and this is the thing I gotta say for Chibnall. A lot of people were upset with the way Chibnall handled most of this season. But this episode right here...
In what terms do you mean, though?
Well, people are upset with a lot of... well, okay, I'm going to say it.
Just say it. I mean, like...
I had it out and I wrote it down and I had to say it. It seems lately like a lot of people were saying this is something I kind of pulled or gleaned from what a lot of people were saying in comments and chat rooms and everything. It's become far more about politics before plot, or issue before series, or causes before characters. And my worry about this is it alienating the old fans while still welcoming in the new fans? And is that a problem? Is it something we should even worry about?
My point of view is like I actually kind of like that it's touching on current issues, political issues, social issues, like gender, sex issues, and everything else. I don't think it's being didactic about it. I don't think it's in your face like, hey, the moral of today's story is like it's not really being like a Mr. Rogers' Sesame Street episode. It incorporates it, and I think what is interesting is, with any show, to stay relevant, it needs to change with the times. And if it wants to keep going like Doctor Who does with these regenerations, you need to change the format. You need to mix it up. You need to make it relevant. And yeah, like without trying to alienate like the older generations, like they are bringing in like Daleks and things that we know. They're making references to Unit. They're making references to the passing to keep the older audience that likes the kind of like more traditional Doctor Who. But I feel like with a reboot, every Doctor is different. They're trying something new with the writing, with the film, and everything else. And like, I honestly like that they change. Well,
But on that case and figuring that out, putting that together, sometimes there may be too much heavy-handed use of tropes. Like, for example, something that we've noticed through Doctor Who all the time is what they try to be very subversive with, but they're not, which is almost like an aspect of toxic masculinity where it's like the father is always a deadbeat dad. The dad is always something's wrong with him. It's always bad. And it's like, well, dude, can you guys at least for one moment have a good father, which we had Wilfred.
Yeah.
We had Wilfred, but even though he was a granddad, but whatever, it's like we have the grandfathers where it's like, okay,
because
I've
we have
become
Graham
this
in
old.
this too, who is not part of this kind of married into this family, and I think that's pretty good. So I think this season in particular, kind of what you're saying, like, yes, in the past that is true, and we find out in this episode we meet Ryan's father, who is Aaron, and he is a deadbeat, and Ryan says his piece, but because he has Graham as a granddad that he recognizes, who is an amazing companion and probably one of our favorites, and I feel like he steps up, and it's like, it's not necessarily who the biological father is, it's who you see as a male figure, that you respect and
that's
wants to
what I
lead you.
love.
And
I love that because the thing is, it was like, you know what? It's not about what you say or just genetics.
Yes.
It's about what you do.
And that's what Ryan
makes
points
it,
out.
exactly.
And that
I love
speech
that.
is so great. And I feel like every character doesn't try to defend Aaron's actions either. And it's like, hey, Oh man, Graham looks so good in that New Year's episode.
Come on,
Hats off
come
to
on.
you,
He just
Graham.
looks. Oh God, best companion at the moment for this series. That's
Yes.
it. That's it.
And I think Ryan learns a lot from it because he's kind of distraught over the letter that he gets from his father, and you see kind of going back and forth. And Graham gives him a little pep talk, and it's like, hey,
Ooh, true.
And I feel like in the speech that Ryan has with his father, he has learned so much and come so far. And we see it at the very end of the episode. If you haven't seen it, spoilers. But Ryan forgives his dad. He was like, I love you, I forgive you. And it took that long to get there. Honestly, I thought it came a little bit, I don't know how to say this.
Say it.
It came too quickly.
Yes.
And I don't like that. You need to extend it out. I feel like you should have enjoyed it a little bit
The
more.
problem is,
Sorry,
what are we gonna do? We're gonna have are we gonna have just a bunch of episodes where it's just weird, nothing happening, and it's just him sitting with his dad? He's like, yeah, well, today is getting close, but not yet. Or
well, I don't know. I kind of bring this out into in the chat. I'm kind of confused of maybe what forgiveness is. Like, I would say maybe I wouldn't hold it against him, knowing that, like, hey, everyone deals with death and, these kinds of things in a different way. I won't hold it against you, but you still weren't there for me. Like, is that forgiveness? Saying, like, hey, I won't bring it back in your face of, like, why are you doing this? Well, you weren't there for me for, 20-something years.
True. I mean, the thing is, really seeing it from that aspect, if I were indeed someone who had that situation where you weren't there for that long, that forgiveness is not going to come in a minute or just like that.
Yeah,
or,
and in a day.
I almost saw you die, so now I figure out blah, blah. No. Congrats, I saved you, and blah, blah. And now you're like, okay, now we have a connection. Sure, we still have a connection, and now it's different from before. But the thing is, you stepped out on me. You're going to take a lot of work to go ahead and get back into my good graces. That's what I would feel. I wouldn't be so easy to go ahead and, we're finally together. No, man. You did a lot. You know what? You stepped out, so now it's going to take you a whole lot of time to step in.
See, that's the way that I kind of felt too. And I actually thought at the end of this episode, I kind of wanted Aaron to die. Like, I wanted him to be sucked out of the ship, and I wanted him to be gone. Like, and I feel like that would have created a more complex character for Ryan, to not be able to give him that forgiveness and to regret it, and for later, like when he's dealing with family or with Graham, to be more open and to be like, I want to tell you every day that I love you, that I appreciate you.
Yes, because
his dad died.
God.
And to be kind of the catalyst for Ryan's arc and for his change. Like, we see it a little bit with Graham, but seeing his father die and sucked out, I think would have been better. And for those of you in the chat, if you ever want to write an article, you could submit it to THS at that#show.com.
Perfect.
And if you agree with me, write an article why Ryan's dad should have died, or why he shouldn't have died, and why this is better for Ryan overall, or for any of the characters.
So that's a better question to pose. Then that's exactly it. Do you think Aaron, Ryan's father, should have died on this episode, or do you think it was okay that he did live?
Yeah, for the writing and for how everything is going, I really thought it would have been better for storytelling. Yes.
Elle the Savage strikes again. That's correct. That's right.
I don't think everyone should die. I mean, I did think Graham was gonna die, and I do think Aaron should die. But
true.
That's
a good question. And when it comes to actually the fulfillment or the growth of a character, that usually a death is something that's a catalyst. Why not be someone that's so close to him? That would really flesh him out as a character. I do agree with you. But the thing is, at what cost? And that's why I think that's the whole point of asking the fans. And hey, if you guys can, accept the challenge. Go ahead and send us something out to fantheories at that#show.com. Send us something to fantheories at that#show.com and tell us if you think that Ryan would have been now a better character with the death of Aaron, his father, or do you think that it was good that his father didn't die and we'll still see that growth in Ryan? Just let us know.
Yeah, and then actually, Arturo says, like, hey, Rose did the same thing. She had to go back in time and find out why her dad was not in her life. I do feel like this is a little bit different, like for reasons of selfish, because actually Ryan did not want his dad in his life and was like, no, we are not a family. You don't walk in here and suddenly say that we are a family, versus Rose always had that kind of regret of like, oh, dad, like, loved him. It's kind of a little bit of a different situation. But
oh wow, that's interesting.
What?
Because I kind of disagree with this. Jesse Torres says, when it comes to the companions, I feel starting off with a new doctor and 3 companions was a bad decision, since it was hard Oh, I'm sorry. Since it was hard for all of them to get fully developed this season. Looking at you, Yaz.
Actually, I kind of like that too. If you want to submit an article on that, I actually do agree with you that Yaz has been kind of sidelined as far as development with these characters, and I feel like.
But see, you say that, and I'm like, we had a whole episode concerning Yaz's family prior, but still, with that, that's the issue.
Yeah, it's
Yaz's
one episode.
Family. No, Yaz's family, not Yaz. We had a story concerning Yaz's grandmother. And all the things that she went through, being old, being young and old, but did we really get more information about Yaz?
And did that affect her character, and did that help her grow in any way, shape, or form? And I have to agree with Jesse that it really hasn't. This has all been the development between Ryan and Graham, and them coming to terms with the loss of Grace, and with Ryan's father trying to come back into his life. I do think Yaz has been sidelined. They do try to give her some good qualities of like being the people person. You go with them, you talk with this. Every time there's a new person, like with Mitch or Lynn, she's the one that gets the phone numbers, contacts them. Yeah. Like she is the people person, but we don't actually get to see a whole lot from Yaz.
Ooh,
and I do agree.
See?
Like Jesse does make a great point.
See, yeah, I mean, I do like it. That's something actually. If you guys want to send it over to fan theories at that #show.com, definitely send it in. I would love to. Jess, I would love to hear more from you. And if you could, we'd definitely be in for it.
And now, if you could write us an article, we'll publish it on that #show.com.
I was going to point out this too. And Peter Davidson did start off with 3 companions also. And that was something that I was like, wait a minute. But Davidson had 3 companions. But yet we were able to kind of flesh out everyone. But it did take more. Well, no, they did it all within their whole season. Their whole season was kind of like, it was long. So, yeah, I mean, versus us with only 11 episodes. And, yeah, we'll count it as 11 episodes. It's kind of hard for 11 episodes to give us growth from 4 main characters. That's hard to do.
It is really hard to do. But really then also with that, if you know that it's going to be that difficult, why don't you trim the fat a little bit? Maybe not introduce Yaz until we get Graham and Ryan fully developed, and bring her in some way, shape, or form.
But
and
see,
then
the thing
get
is, you need Yaz as that foil in between, because we can't have these two being connected when at first they were bumping heads. If we have them always bumping heads,
that's true. Yaz was kind of the person that everyone went to, and she is the people person.
Because the doctor, you know how the doctor works. I like to come to a mission, and if I have more than one companion, I like to send them off by themselves and let me figure something out. True. And while I'm figuring something out, I'll wait for them to find the trouble and say they need my help, and then I'll rush over and I'll say
that is a really good point. That is kind of how the tropes
work. So the thing is, it's like, great, I need more. So if I have more than one, that's going to be the issue. So when that happens and that becomes the ethic, the kind of system that they have, Yaz needs to be there to be that foil between Ryan and Graham, because remember, at first, Ryan and Graham,
that is true. I mean, that is a really good point, and I feel like their bickering would have gotten on the doctor's nerves.
It would have gotten on everyone's nerves.
But because everyone was, kind of saving face because Yaz and the doctor is there, that is a good point that we do need them, but I also feel like we do need to spend a little bit more time on Yaz as a character.
Heck yeah.
And that point you were making of, what was it, something over characters? Conflict.
It's a conflict over there were so many issues with it where it was just like that was a big thing.
But I feel like they did so well with Graham and Ryan and the doctor being extremely well developed. And Yaz falls by the wayside, but I don't know if that last one is necessarily true as far as new Doctor Who. I know people are just saying no, and we're just gathering it, but I'm sure you can make arguments one way or the other.
Oh, well, true. That's the big thing. That's the big thing. You heard about what's happening at Galley, possibly, right? Yeah.
I actually have, and I hope it's true, because that would be amazing.
Oh my God! Well, guys, if you guys don't know, some slightly breaking news, because we don't have it completely confirmed.
It's not confirmed yet,
but we're hearing that
some whispers
that Peter Capaldi may be at Gallifrey.
At Gallifrey 1, which is a convention that happens here in Southern California. It's one of the, I think it is the biggest Doctor Who convention that we have in the United States.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, UK is going to have a lot bigger things. But it is the biggest, and it's a fan convention. And it's very small. Tickets sell out incredibly fast. But the community is so great. And the people that come, they come to party. They come to talk Who.
Yes.
And Capaldi might be slated as, the headlining guest for this year.
Ooh, I would love it.
That would be amazing. And he is so genuine and so kind and so gregarious. That man is so great. God. I hope he is there.
So what did you think concerning mainly, I guess it would be more of the episode itself. Were there some things that just stood out to you that you were just like, oh my god, I have to make sure I discuss this?
I mean, the other thing that I take issue with, and we kind of played around with it a little bit earlier, is Ryan's coordination problem and how they want to give him this like disability, but it only comes into play when it's convenient, and it's not even necessarily convenient. But he'll say things like, "Pretty good for saving my dad out of this like black hole door thing that wants to suck him out," and I have this coordination problem, and I'm just like, okay, I get it. If it did affect him regularly, and we see him stumbling as he's trying to run, or he can't do things, or he prevents the doctor or his companions and tries to get them into trouble, I can see why it would be a problem. But we have not seen it be a problem since he tried to ride a bike and threw it over the cliff.
Exactly. That's the only time that actually it comes to play. And it's getting annoying that they keep addressing it. They keep giving it to us. And they keep trying to make it a through line. And the thing is, I understand that we're working with this idea of, once again, acceptance. And we have to make sure that everyone is involved. It's all about inclusion.
Yes.
Okay, well, please, for God's sakes, don't make that the case as far as our ideal for inclusion, because you're not doing anything with it. So it was just a trope that you guys chose to pick and say, we're going to throw something at the screen, or we're going to throw something at the wall, see if it sticks. It was stupid. It's a waste of time. Go ahead and give him something else instead.
Yeah, like, or just play up that disability. Have it play out in ways that you don't have to address it, like show, not tell. I feel like that's a really big thing, especially with
always
TV.
A big thing.
We are told that he has this problem on multiple occasions, but we don't ever necessarily see it play out. Like when he's coming down the ladder, he was like, hey, you know, I have a coordination problem. Sorry, I'm slow.
I hated that.
But it doesn't actually slow them down at all. It doesn't create any issues. It's never an issue in any of the episodes. And, you know, I think that's one of the downfalls of this particular writing, aside from Yaz being kind of sidelined as far as companion development.
Definitely. But also on the fact when it comes to writing, I feel that on this episode, Chibnall really put his nose to the grind and gave us something that was good. The episode itself was possibly the best episode of the season.
I don't want to say it's the best, but it was by far the most surprising, because I think as fans, we've been waiting for some kind of old villain, some monster to not monster. True. Sorry, let's be political.
Oh, that's right.
Aliens
we're not that,
come up. You know, and I do think it gave it this very epic beginning that seems like a fantasy kind of tale being narrated, even though I don't like narration in my TV shows. It was being narrated, and it did give it like this kind of epic quality. And then when the voice of the Dalek comes in and it's that very robotic thing, you already know, like, you're not 100% sure, but you're like 90% sure. They're like, oh my goodness. And it builds the hype until you actually see it and the lights in the background shining.
That was it. That was amazing. A huge thing. It was like when it finally happened, it was like, I have control of you. And I was like, oh my God! I lost it. I lost it. It was
amazing. And I don't know, for those of you guys that watched it in the chat, what did you guys think? Were you excited that the Dalek came up? Was that this was the villain of our New Year's episode?
Yeah, see, and the thing is, it's like, yes, we all know, because when it comes to Doctor Who fans, yes, everyone knows everything before it happens. But when you actually see it, when it happens right there in front of you, how great is that? It's like, it was monumental. And I loved every bit of it. And it brought me back. There was nostalgia. There were so many feelings. Yes. And I loved every bit of it. And that's what I'm saying. They did a great approach to an old tool, essentially. It was like, okay, hey, I've got this hammer, but what I'm going to do is do this and add this and that to the hammer. So now it's beyond just a hammer. Yeah. That's what I loved about it. It was like, we're going to give you this something that you're already familiar with, but we're going to change it up.
Yeah, and it gave... I don't know. It was enough for me. I actually really did enjoy it. Yeah. Overall, love the episode. Thought more people should have died, but, you know, that's fine. Really thought Lynn should have died.
Oh.
Because Dalek got her. Daleks do not... people thought Ryan's dad should have died. But other than that, like, it was a really good... And it did... Instead of having a Christmas episode... Yeah, they said it's a New Year's episode, but I feel like, you know, that's just... to advertise it. It didn't need that New Year's feel to it at all. It was just another bonus episode that we got outside of the 10.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, this is interesting for me because it was like, okay, we had Eccleston, who was introduced to help introduce a lot of people to the Daleks before.
And including myself.
Exactly. And that interaction with the Dalek. That moment where he gives that speech and says why he feels that they shouldn't live and why they should be eradicated. And it was almost to the point where you were like, all right, at this point, by that time that happened, you were like, all right, yes, I love this doctor, but I do know that this doctor doesn't believe in, like, okay, things should die, but he took that turn because it was like, this is my worst enemy. Yes. It will die. We got something similar to that with Jodie,
where she was like, "Hey, you guys heard that? Like, I tried to like talk him out, right?
You heard, yeah, right. And
they're like, yeah, yes. You definitely try to. You gave him a chance, you didn't take it, and then they were less convincing with like, you think I can run fast enough, right? They're like, we've never really seen you run, and when she does run, she kind of,
yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
She runs weird, but it's really cute and endearing.
She had a moment where it was almost like her and the Dalek, and it was that combating kind of thing, but she was like, no, it's my worst enemy. It's the thing I fear most, and blah, blah. And ultimately, it felt like there was a moment where she said something close to Eccleston, which was like, if this thing dies, I want you to make sure that don't blame me. Yeah. It may have to die. And that was it.
And I think that's fine, especially this doctor in this particular season who is absolutely against killing anything.
Yeah.
For her to step up and say, like, we have to get rid of this particular being.
It was get rid.
Yeah. She's like, I tried, but we're going to have to get rid of it. Yeah. I think that shows a lot to a lot of new audience members about how, as ridiculous as they look, about how menacing they are in the Doctor Who world.
That's right.
And it is weird, like the CGI, and it's coming up, and it's just like this trash can that floats in the air and like sails around. It still does look silly, but we accept it.
It looks silly, but the thing is, it's like, even though the outside may look like, oh, this is ridiculous, it's more of the brain and what's happening on the inside.
It's the tentacle inside.
Yes. It's like how evil it is, and how its whole goal is once again to eradicate the human race. Yes. Or eradicate wherever it is. And that's what makes it really scary, because it won't stop. It won't stop until its mission is complete, which is, I came here for reconnaissance, but I'm also here to make sure that I exterminate, which is my key phrase. And that's where it's like, dang, when you think about it, it's an unwieldy enemy, unwieldy monster, that no matter what you do to stop it, it will not stop. What do?
And that's the thing, too, but I think we need to have that, and I like this iteration of it, because the Daleks will always need to come back. For every single Doctor, Dalek is a mandatory villain that has to appear, so no matter how many times you destroy it, it's going to come back in some way, shape, or form.
And I love it. This was really inventive in the way it did come back. Because it was like, man, how are we going to do this? Didn't we just get rid of the Daleks? Aren't they in a time war and now they're like locked, they're time locked?
Yeah.
And we'll never see them again? Oh, wait, no. Didn't after we finished the time lock, we destroyed everything? And isn't Skaro just a burning star? And we did see that. Yes. Skaro indeed was a burning star.
Yeah,
now
it was.
Done.
And he was about to get sucked out.
Yeah, so we're like, so then what's going on? How are we even going to get a Dalek? That was genius to say, okay, well, the reconnaissance one is different from the others, and it finds a way to bring itself together. Oh my God!
See,
genius.
That was another thing
Great
too.
writing.
But it was like, was it the ultraviolet light is what allowed it to assemble? Yeah. But it teleported its body parts back into one. That was something I was like, I'll allow it because science fiction, and we just have to go with it because this is the premise. Otherwise, there would be no episode.
But you're like, plot hole, but I'll accept it at the moment.
Yeah, I was just like, shouldn't it have to come together? And also, like with that very epic fantasy opening, I was like, there's only one person. They're not going with a guard, and that guy just got shot by Robin Hood for no reason. And
I did not understand that.
And it was like
he was like,
and he was like, that fool should have got someone else to watch his back, considering this is a really important thing they need to watch over.
I was reading some comments and everything like that, and somebody kept pointing out, they were like, I'm kind of upset with Doctor Who this season because it seems like if you're a white male, you're possibly going to die. And that just seems to be the case in the whole season. And then this one, immediately, we had a woman that went ahead and buried everything fine. We had a black man that stood up on the beach, buried everything fine. We had a white man that was like, all right, I'm going to, and it just
It wasn't even that. It was just a single arrow, and then Robin Hood came and pickpocketed him.
Like, literally, that's like on those games where, you shoot someone, you snipe them, then you go over, you're like, a teabag, and you run away. That's literally what he did. Yes. That's exactly what he did. And it was like, dear God, it's not fair. It's not fair, but it was hilarious.
I mean, I didn't even think about that because I'm just thinking of like, hey, you guys guys fought this really epic war and a lot of people died and you had to cut up this like octopus carcass into 3 parts to bury it. But also it's like, could you just not cut them up into a couple more and be like Voldemort and just create Horcruxes till the end of time? I'm like, why just 3? Were there only 3 survivors at the end? They could recruit like one more or like, you know, someone to watch
my thought. It was supposed to be the army of men, so that means they're from different places, blah blah. So why couldn't they just have their army people come with them? These generals were just by themselves when they chose to bury it, and then on top of that, they had to sit and watch.
Yeah.
Like when she did that and she just sat there. I was like, so when she dies, what happens? And they're like, oh, but it goes through the generations. So if it goes through the generations, why don't you just have a whole team of people watching? I don't understand. But whatever, we'll let that
But
go.
that's fine. Like the narration, the whole beginning, it just sets it up, which is like very different from the other 10 episodes, which you come into the middle. And so this one, we actually had a whole opening, like, you know, a lot of other Doctor Who episodes. And Arturo, what does he say?
Arturo, this is interesting. He says they should do an episode of where the Doctor is on Gallifrey again, learning the truth that the Doctor created the Daleks.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I've also heard a weird theory where somebody was like, well, if you think about it, could it be that actually before they really went into it, it was like way back in like old Who, where people were speculating, could it be that the Doctor actually did create the Daleks?
Didn't he create one of the Daleks with Capaldi and he wouldn't, and it was like the whole war thing, and it's like, I gotta help this boy, and then at the end, I feel like they already kind of did that episode, maybe not necessarily on Gallifrey, but through his travels, I can't remember what the episode was called, but it was a Capaldi episode, and he finds out, and he has to decide whether, like, do you let this happen?
Or do you not? But then also it was the whole thing, which of the 5 new Doctor Who the strongest? Okay, that's a good question. But the thing is, still with that, it was like there's a lot of things. There was an old fan theory before we got introduced to Davros, where they said the whole thing about that, where it was like before we got Davros, they were like, oh, the Doctor actually created them. And then they go through a whole story, and then finally they were like, writers were like, nope, that's not true. Davros is there, blah blah. And then later we even see Davros as a kid,
that's true.
Blah blah. So we know that it's not that story of somehow one iteration of the Doctor became so corrupted that he became Davros. Yes. No.
They're pretty good with certain continuity and certain storytelling, and I think that would mess it up to find out if it was anything else.
It would be horrible.
You know, I don't know if you would be able to retcon something as huge as that.
No, that would be horrible.
Part of it is the mystery too. I would be interested to see if there's another take on that though in the future, because I do love those kind of history.
I love those where it's like ultimately it's you that you created your worst enemy, and it's all because of something that you chose to do instead of doing something else. I love that kind of stuff. But we'll see. But with that, I think we have broken down this episode as far as we can go.
Yeah, and if you have anything else you wanna add or maybe have a conversation with, you can always go to THS hashtaggers on Facebook and engage with us there.
That's definitely a spot. And make sure that you guys are pretty much accepting the challenge that we put out today. What was the challenge that we put out today? We told them we want to know exactly if Aaron
should have lived or should he have died. I feel like Aaron should have died, and it would have been a better plot point for the development of Ryan's character. I feel like then Graham could come in and console him. Yaz might be able to do her family, you know, work her magic. Sure. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, what do you guys give this episode? This is the last episode that we are going to see of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor until 2020. Do you think this was a great way to leave off, that this was a good special?
I think it was a great special. Like I said, I feel that it was possibly the best episode of the season. So when it comes to the audience scores, even starting it off, I may be biased, but I'm giving it a 5. I actually like this episode. I love the character development. I like the growth. I love the conflict and also the side or sub-internal conflict of the characters themselves besides them dealing with the monster or the Dalek. I loved it. The development, the growth of Dalek, learning even more about them. I loved it in so many ways. 5. What about you?
And come on, audience members, I'm going to go a little bit low with this one because not enough people died for me. It's a 3. I really, really think that Lynn should have died. There's no reason for the Dalek to leave a human alive. And I also think that Aaron's dad should have been sucked out into the abyss with a Dalek.
Very true.
And then we have you guys in the chat that we have Jesse Torres who said, oh no, that's the question.
Well, nobody. We do have Arturo, who said should have died. Agrees with you.
2.5
2.5 out of 5 because of that. That's a good point. And our moderator here on the show is saying, I thought Matt Smith had a great first season.
He really did. That
but
first
it also
episode
peaked.
was good.
It did also peak. But yeah, it
He
was
got a little too weird, but I like weird.
I loved it. Matt Smith is just a great one. Oh wow, 8 out of 10.
Which is 4 out of 5.
Not the best Jodie, exactly. Not the best Jodie episode, but a good Dalek episode.
It really was.
Agree.
I was super excited to see this thing just come out and try to exterminate.
Edward Sanchez gives it a 4 out of 5. So it seems like we're going slightly to the area.
We have mixed feelings about
right?
this. So send us that article and try to convince me that Aaron's dad should not have died, because I definitely think he should have, and you don't.
Yeah, I don't. So we're at odds, and we want you guys to help us out and really help us make the decision. Because trust me, I am definitely down for peer pressure. So write the article, let us know what's going on, send it over to fantheories@thathashtagshow.com. We'll be able to publish it, and you'll be a published writer right here. So we'll definitely do that. And with that, I think we can kind of sign off and say goodbye.
Yeah, and if you want to tune in next week, we're going to be doing retro. Well, not really retro, but
actually, retro.
Kind of retro for us. Yeah. We're going to be looking at Eccleston episodes and be talking about those. If you want to join us and go down nostalgia lane,
should we go out of order and just go to the Dalek episode, because it's like right after this one? We'll go to his Dalek episode. Or
we will find out.
Yeah,
we'll all be surprised next Sunday. So
yes,
please tune in at 7:00.
Exactly. All right. Well, with that, I'm Daniel Jerome. Hey, blah blah, yada yada.
And I'm Elle, and yeah.
Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with everything trending
in geek pop culture. Beep beep. That's not what he says.
That's close enough. It's close enough.